What's going on, everybody? Today's video, we're jumping back onto the GT350 because we will be installing a set of RaceLouvers hood louvers. Alright, so this install should be pretty straightforward. Hood louvers aren't anything too crazy, but it's the first kind of thing I'm doing to this since the wind tunnel, which was actually a couple months ago. Now in the kit, obviously the louvers, install manual, some hardware, stickers, but most importantly the templates that you cut out that you can then just transfer on, make it real easy to cut out your hole. Now I jumped ahead just a tiny bit. If you need instructions on how to take your hood off, you probably shouldn't be installing these. Before I took them off, I did make some notes on where they go in relation to the radiator. You absolutely do not want the louvers starting in front of your radiator. That's not doing anything for you. The GT350 makes it pretty easy because of the factory vent. You know, this one just kind of starts right where the factory one does, so that's kind of easy, and then the side ones just kind of come right parallel off of that. So yeah, not too much talking in this one. Let's just kind of get to laying them out and cutting. Alright, so now that I got the hood vent out, I figured it's a good point for a quick little backstory. This car was in the wind tunnel with this exact set of louvers on it. You can actually still see we have a lot of the wool tufts on it. There's still some on the back glass and everything. If you want to see that video, I will link that down below. I'll put a tag up here as well. I'll also link below my entire wind tunnel video playlist. If you watched any of them in the past, you know I've been to the wind tunnel with Al Watson, the guy who owns RaceLouvers, plenty of times now. And I've seen these louvers outperform any other louver we tested as far as downforce generation on the front goes, as well as the pressure drop across the front and back of the radiator measured with some probes. So, you know, pretty simple choice for me as to why I went with RaceLouvers. But again, watch all the videos. You can see all the other ones tested across you know, the GT350, my race car, an E36, the Audi, the other Mustang, I don't know, a handful. I'm actually kind of forgetting all of them. But anyways, so yeah, quick little backstory. Check those out if you're interested in, you know, aerodynamics, wind tunnel stuff. Back to the cutting. I wanted to get that out first, so that way, you know, I kind of know exactly where to bump this up right across the, so that way I know exactly where to bump this up right across the front. And yeah, we'll just kind of tape it in place. I'll probably just run tape lines around the perimeter, not mark it with a marker or anything, pull them off and cut it. Alright, so as you can see, our 3 holes are cut out. Now we got to do something with the inner structure. I'm going to flip the hood over and decide, I don't know if I'm just going to cut like just what's needed, or when I flip it over, will there be some nice area that kind of makes sense to kind of cut out like a larger chunk or something? Alright, so with the hood upside down, I got a little better idea of what I want to do. The center, we're just going to cut right here. You can see how there's a little bit of that, you know, I don't know, gap filler, seam sealer stuff between the inner shell and the outer skin. So I think just leaving where it touches in a few spots will kind of just keep the hood a little bit sturdier. This side isn't quite as bad because there's already cutouts here. This side, on the other hand, I want to make note of this ring right here. Now that's really important. What this ring is the rubber seal on this airbox. So what that means is this seal seals to the hood almost perfectly. So when we put the louvers on, we're going to lose that seal a little bit. So when we end up taking this off, you can do two things. Just leave it open, it's not a big deal. Or two, you can see how it kind of bolts on. You can make some sort of, you know, cover right here. So if it's still a semi-daily driver, or you're doing DEs and, you know, you're racing in the rain or something, you don't want rain getting on the filter, you could cover it with some sheet of just ABS, plastic, plexiglass, whatever you want really. Or I guess there's three options. Options 3, they do make it's almost like a sock that goes over your filter that lets air pass through but kind of like repels water. That's another option. So, you know, kind of there's multiple options to handle that little situation. So back to the hood, not knowing where to cut, what I'm going to do is underneath with a, I don't know, 1/8 inch drill bit, in every corner I'm going to drill a hole through to the other side because I know these are all straight lines. So if I just in this corner just drill up and put a little tiny hole right there, you know, on the inside you just kind of connect all the holes and you got the same exact shape on the inside. So hope that makes sense. So yeah, let's get this inside cut, and after that we're close to done. Alright, so all the interior cutting is done. As you can see, like I mentioned, I left as much of the interior ribs as possible. Now what I'm going to do is just clean up some of the burrs on the edge real quick, because when you cut, you can see you get this nasty edge. So I'm just going to use my deburring tool, just kind of run around all the edges real quick. If they're a little bit too nasty, you could kind of use like a file or something, but just kind of clean it up. Alright, so we're all cleaned up on the bottom, now the top. So now time for our first kind of official test fit. And looks good. You want to make sure you can see all the holes. That would suck if I overcut the hole. That one's good. That one's good. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier or not. This is an aluminum hood, so I'm okay leaving the edges raw. This car has a salvage title. It's never going to be anything special. It's aluminum. It's a track car. I'm not going to worry about, you know, trying to get like paint match or even just putting black around it because it's aluminum. It won't rust or anything. So there, good, good. And then, oops. You know what? Because the front needs to sit down. Where did I mess up? You know what? I'm a little bit short on the back here for some reason. Huh. And I probably should have known that, or, you know, realized they give you a decent flange on this trailing edge. Okay. Alright, so I got to cut out, I don't know, another 3/4 inch. Then I'll be good on the center. Alright, so I figured out what I did. Template is correct. doing this on these cars, I had the template, it's kind of hard to do because it's floppy, all the way up into this edge right here, which if I cut it there, would have been too short, but I kind of used that to kind of square and align it, when technically it should have been back, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch to an inch. So that's where my mess up was. Alright, so retrim the rear, and there we go. Fits in there good now. Alright, so at this point, we're just going to time lapse through riveting on. It's the last step. Well, and then getting the hood back on the car. Alright guys, here it is, all finished up. I think they look pretty sweet. I know I mentioned this previously. Since we had this in the wind tunnel, we know they work. But yeah, let's take a look down inside of them. This side's great because a little bit gets covered by the fuse box. If I had to do it over again, I could probably nudge these maybe a 1/2 inch this way, but you do start getting into the curve of the hood. A 1/2 inch, you know, we're talking peanuts difference at that point. But you can still see, like, there's the coolant reservoir, fan shroud. So once the air makes it through the radiator, hits the engine and whatever else, obviously comes out of the top and makes it out this one, no problem. The driver's side, as I mentioned earlier, because the airbox is there, a little bit different. So you can see the air filter. Like I mentioned, you could put a sock on it, or what I'm probably going to end up doing is make some sort of cover on the airbox. I'll pop the hood in a second. But that rubber seal that's there, when you take that out and put a flat panel to kind of re-enclose the airbox, because these cars from the factory are pretty neat. So here's where the air comes in. The air filter's right there. Can't quite see it. But if you want to take advantage of, I'll call it the ram air effect, but the airbox isn't sealed. It opens up to the fender, so, it's not like a true ram air. But, air will still kind of make it up out a little bit, through these. And these back ones are open as well. So once air hits everything, it'll squeeze up out here. So let's pop the hood real quick. But like I was mentioning, this rubber seal that touches the hood, you can see how tall it is. So if you were to make a plate that went over this, and this is where I was mentioning how it's just open to the fender down here, so it's not like you're really going to get like pressure in here. You just get nice cool air from the front. So if you put a flat panel over this so the filter doesn't get like rained on or anything, or when you wash the car, it will have, this high of a gap, once it hits the engine, whatever, the air to squeeze through and make it up and out. So it'll still work for sure. Not 100% ideal, but again, to kind of take advantage of that side, make it symmetrical, still way better than just having, not these side ones and only the center. But, choice is up to you. All right, guys, so there you have it. RaceLouver hood louvers for the GT350. They got all sorts of options. A link to their website will be in the video description below. Super easy install. I'm really happy with them, so I'm excited to get this thing out. Sorry that the front bumper isn't on it. We got a whole bunch of other stuff planned. We're taking a bunch of measurements and figuring stuff out right there. So if you want to see future videos on this car, definitely taking it to the track, future upgrades, future parts, hit that subscribe button. As always, guys, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.